Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. We'd like to call the town hall to order here. Lots of precursors to the presentation. One, this is an information gathering, okay? This is based on reports we received, based on some of the findings that have all been turned in through public knowledge. We are here to bring everyone together for informational purposes, and we're not proclaiming, myself especially, doing the agenda and the presentation. I'm not an expert in the room, okay? My sole goal was to bring this community together, and actually those across the country, to look at the petition, understand the condition of the lake and the maintenance needed to provide a positive future for this community and the surrounding communities. So with that in mind, we just ask that we move through the agenda. We're going to have a Q&A time at the end. And we do have representatives from different departments here that may be able to address some of the questions you have that I can't. Okay, so tonight I would like to acknowledge those that are in the room so that you're aware of who they are. And Congressman Alice Zimmerman is over here to the right. Welcome. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Representatives from the DNR are here in the front row. Thank you for coming. We have special guest Greg. He's going to talk about some of the chemical options that we have that are actually organic. We think of them as chemicals, but they're organic in that nature, to look at another proposition for the lake. And I want to thank the town hall and Holly and all those. And yes, and Congressman from Aaron Hodgson's office also represented here today as part of the administration. So thank you each for coming. All of you that came here tonight, your participation is so extremely important. The fact that you showed up tonight and you're showing interest is a positive thing for this community, right? That you're here, okay? That's what we're here for, is to talk, get information. What can we do as next steps? So let's keep that in the light of this meeting. Also, just a raise of hands. How many have lived in this community over 20 years? That's what I thought. Great example. How about over 30 years? Wow. Okay, here we go. Over 40? Okay, how about over 50? Wow. Thank you. You know, part of what we do with the lake is also to preserve the legacy of this community. We want young people to stay. We want them to bring their families to the park. It's not just for tourism, it's also for the community, right? There's memories created there. We're going to talk about that. But how do we keep younger families in our community? All of you, I see all these hands over 50 years. Thank you for staying in the Versailles community and surrounding communities. So we're just going to walk through real quick the agenda for this evening. I'm done with this one. Tonight's conversation, we might vary a little bit from this, but this is the general order. Why does the lake matter to this community and the county? What has changed and what could restoration regain? Transparency and public information. We want to see transparent information for all of you. Website and evidence walkthrough. We're going to walk through the icareaboutversailles.com, org. The DNR proposals and restoration options, those are also located on the website. We're going to go through those. Engaging federal and your state leaders and how to do that. There's envelopes at the front here. When we get to that, please take one on your way out the door. Ways for the community to stay involved, and we're going to do a little Q&A. Again, we are not experts in the room about all of this. This is information gathering tonight. And then what are our next steps as a community and what can we do? The lake is part of how this community lives. right? 230 acres, water, recreation, wildlife, memories, and local commerce. How many of you are small business owners or have been in this community? Great. Okay. You know, we have the fishing and paddling, shoreline access. You're going to see photos in here. Some provided by the Carson Hughes Foundation, some actually that my husband has taken in the park. Camping events, we have repeat visitors, we have first-time visitors that maybe found it on a search, and the defining landscape of Southern Indiana. But if we're honest, when someone says we're sales, what do they do?
State park.
The state park, right? You know, like that. Let's look beyond the view. I know we have business owners in the room tonight who actually have property that overlooks the lake. It's beautiful, right? And that is possibly why you bought that property, was because of the lake. Okay, so beyond that, we have traditions. We have family fishing, paddling, the polar plunge has been at this lake, usable water and access. The habitat, right? Sedimentation reduces open water. If you've been out there recently, most of you have, some of you daily, you're going to notice, right? The water quality, while the dam also blocks the fish movement. We do have the sedimentation, and then the local economy. Park visitors support the nearby businesses. You know, I could be walking on a Saturday, and it's funny, we think about just our local businesses in Versailles, but we could be up at Walmart in Aurora, or you could be somewhere in Batesville and run into someone who is from the park. That they decided to wander or go, right? So it's not just for sales, but it does have commerce here. And for many residents, restoration means preserving a working public resource, right, to its full capacity. We're going to talk about the responsibility for the future, what it really means to us. What we can't measure is what we've already lost, but what we're going to focus on is what could we gain from the restoration, okay? How the lake reached its current condition, and again, we're just focusing on public reports. Lake was created, Lawford Creek was dammed, it was planned for 700+ acre lake, right? It's down to 30. Capacity has already been lost in late in the 1980s. If you look at the heat maps and you go online, you can actually see over the years of the sedimentation, right, and the change of that demographic. The DNR evaluated rehabilitation, partial decommissioning, and full decommissioning. We're going to talk about some of those reports. And by 2050, if there was no action, the lake would reach its projected fill in on its own, right, with nothing, because the sediment is continuing to build. Is this readable? Is it a little bit over? Is it okay? Yeah. Oh. Understanding the safety and sediment challenges. And this is where, when we get to Q&A, we may have some other people who can give a little bit more light to this, but this is just based on what we receive. So 60% plus of the lake holds sediment. Open water retention habitat, right? It's already been materially reduced. If you've been out there, you know that. You know the fishing capability, the fish, right? It's very much reduced. The high hazard classification, I think this is where the public, we get a little mixed up, and we might be able to get some assistance with some of that. High hazard describes the potential for consequence of failure, okay? Not an imminent emergency, like tomorrow. This is possible consequence of the dam failing, which would be 50,000 cubic feet per second versus the 35,000 that is flowing if there was a fail, right? So the studies modeled after the probable maximum flow if it exceeds the spillway. Okay, so just some facts on that. So what the 2021 feasibility study considered, and this was also published in a couple of different publications, one most recently last year. No action, sediment keeps accumulating, recreation eventually is lost, dam deficiencies remain. we lose the lake, right? There's nothing done. Restore the lake and dam. This is a huge number we see up here, 103.5 million. We have some alternatives to that we'd like to present tonight. And we're going to have a guest speaker on that a little bit. Dredge the lake and add overtopping protection, retains open water with the highest cost and upkeep, which in the normal world when this was presented would have been dredging, right? But we're going to show an alternate to that tonight versus the high cost of dredging and the maintenance in that. And to the partial decommission, so 13.2 million would be partially removing the dam, add the rock arch rapids, restore Lawfrey Creek through a former lake bed. Lake still becomes a creek. Okay, so that is, in our opinion, those who are interested in the lake, that's really not what the community would like to see. And then also 9.8 million, remove the spillway and much of the dam, creates a free-flowing creek with new access areas. What we wanted, just information today, we all know that the creek is also impaired by the water level of rain, right? So some of this would be affected by that as well. So we have new additional restoration affordable approach that we'd like to present tonight, which is also we'd like to present to the DNR and through the Congress of what that would look like, right, with a different approach. And we have some key features about reducing organic accumulation, reducing sludge. Cost, if you look at the cost difference that we're going to present, is like 1/12 of the current proposed expense. Only 1% of the currently stated restore lake and dam. We do know that money has to be put towards the dams, but what we could save on the lake dredging and that restoration could be reallocated. That's a possibility. And I would like to, like Greg, if you'd like to tell everyone a little bit about this process.
Sure. I don't have a big presentation. I'll just talk to y'all for a minute. So my name is Greg Wagner, live in Napoleon. I'm the national sales manager for a company called Awasa, and in particular the lake therapy line of products. So I deal with lake and pond management people all the time, and what she said, the Schlix Plus is the product that we provide that helps with the sediment issue. I won't talk anything about dams. I don't know anything. I don't know a damn thing about dams. But this product is a mineral-based chemistry and biology that work together and are applied to a lake, goes down, digests the organics in a sediment layer. And a sediment layer is made up of a lot of different stuff. Inorganic in this part of the world, that's good old-fashioned Indiana clay and a little bit of sand. And then there's a lot of organics, leaf litter, fish waste, dead fish, all the stuff that gets in there. And so our product goes down to the sediment layer and it digests those organics. And so that takes that component out. Now, when organics are entrained in a sediment layer, when they're entrained with the inorganic, with the clay and the sand, it makes the whole thing fluffy because organics contain a lot of water. They're organic in nature, right? So they contain a lot of water and they fluff up that. So that's why when you step in a lake that has a lot of organic in it, you sink up to your knee. It stinks, smells kind of like rotten, eggs, that kind of thing. So you digest all that out, and what that does is that allows the clay and the sand that is left behind to compact. So you'll get a very disproportionate compaction, and you'll add water volume. You'll take sediment away, and you'll add water volume to the lake. In addition to digesting those organics, it will make a healthier fishery because now you'll have proper biology in the lake. As the product disassociates, dissolves in water, it gives off molecular oxygen for this biology to use. So along with digesting these organics and making a much better sediment layer, you get a healthier fishery, a healthier water body. So like I said, we do this all the time. This is what we do. I think because of Facebook, my wife said, hey, you need to reach out to this guy and talk to him because this is kind of what he does. So do it all over the country. I've got everything from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean and everything from Canada to Mexico. And so we've got several case studies that on lakes just like this. So the big advantage, I think the number that she presented was 103 million for dredging or something like that. Our product applied, so you'll put it out for bid, and a lake and pond management company, whether it's Solitude Lake Management or Jones or you know what's the other one I'm thinking of? Yeah, Aquatic Control. Yeah, exactly. One of those will bid it, but usually, typically applied, it's about $3,000 per acre. So let's say we took 100 acres of this. You're talking about $300,000. Now, I will say in the first year, because of the state that this lake is in, you're probably going to do that twice because we've got a great big mess that we have to clean up. But again, like she said, it's well, when you think about it, when you're talking 100 million down to less than a million, you're talking 2 orders of magnitude. Take 2 zeros off the end of that number, and that's what you're talking about. So I think it's a great opportunity. Again, if that doesn't fix the dam, I understand all that. But as far as the sediment issue goes, I really feel like it's something that can help this body of water out.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
So what we were asking for in this effort through the petition, through the public order of reports is transparency. And what would that look like going forward? A transparent process could make the information clearer to each of you, not just to me or the people who have been on this effort, but getting a current condition assessment for the dam and lake as with new information. Right, what would that section look like? The assumption and life cycle costs behind each of these. Let's get that. A complete comparison of restoration and sediment management approaches. When we have coined right, safe, relate, but really this is about the community as well. It's not just the lake. We can't measure what we've lost for tourism already, although I can tell you I've got a lot of phone calls that said I haven't been there in 10 years because of the condition of the lake. That I can't measure for you. But what we can look is at the efforts going forward, not just restoring the lake, but what does it do for the tourism? The amount of dollars coming into the park to maintain this type of sedimentation treatment. Right? There's a lot of dollars that could be had back in to the visitors of the park to fund even this effort that is approximately 1.2 million versus 103, right? So the funding efforts, the decision timeline, meaningful public participation. The idea today was to reach out to the community, to the DNR, to our local congressman, and we're just asking for us to have more public conversation around the lake. What are the plans? Keep the communities and the counties involved that surround it. Help us to understand what the plans are. It's very difficult in hindsight to make an adjustment. I know that there are many restaurants, the small restaurants in this area, the bookstore, IGA, the gas pumps. They rely on tourism, right? Those summer months help bring the rest of the year through. So just looking for clear information to help us understand and what would the path be forward. How restoration options can be evaluated. Let's define the outcome. What are we looking for? Are we looking for a full restoration? Are we looking for a time, as Greg said, maybe it's a 3-year process, right? We can call that out from the very beginning. This isn't an instant overnight, but possibly a 3-year process. Comparing the methods, evaluating all those, the dam upgrades. Most of us don't know what the dam upgrade will cost. We do know that it hasn't received the maintenance that it has needed over the time since it was placed, right? And that is public record. Publish the results, compare the life cycles. We would like to see published the result of these findings, and under the evidence and the independent review, have meaningful public input into those results. Help us understand, right? What are these decisions being made? How are they being made? So there are promising technologies that even these technologies still require site engineering. We're aware of that. Requires permitting, independent cost validation, right? We know everything goes out to bid. We know there's a lot of effort even in this process. But we're just asking tonight, bringing it to public view, that that effort be made to help restore this lake. Where to explore the reports and public information. When we are done with the slide presentation, we're going to go out to the website just so you're aware. If you haven't been there, there was a card on your seat tonight that has a QR code, and also the site icareaboutversaillesstatepark.org. And what you'll see on there is the petition campaign request. I believe as of this evening, we're about 5,900 signatures across that petition. You will find that there. You'll see the community and wildlife impact. You'll see the reports that were published by the DNR to us when we asked for the public reports. You'll see the design drawings and geometric analysis, the park operating revenue and project updates, and the direct links to the public records are there along with your elected leaders. So there is a great resource for you. I just put there what I received. Those public reports are the way they are, they're public reports. We do have some case studies on there, but honestly, it was brought to my attention. When we first started this, the case studies were for how we could be impacted as a community as we lose possibly 50, $100,000 visitors. But really, that's not the focus tonight, is losing. We want to focus on how do we regain those visitors. So when we first operated this, the case studies were about losing, but tonight we want to look at how are we going to gain those visitors back, right? So what are some ways that you can be involved? Sign and share the petition. We ask that you do that. Contact your leaders. On the website, we have specific contacts for each of the government leadership offices. We also have envelopes pre-addressed here with form letters for you to send out. Request records. I requested these public records. You can request public records yourself, right? Anybody can request public records. Okay, and stay involved. Attend the meetings. Thank you for coming tonight. Submit comments on the petition. You can see comments from people who have signed the petition or visited the park, and invite others to join your conversation. I would say still 1 out of every 10 people, if you were to walk the streets of Versailles, still don't know about the petition. So I want to encourage you. That is something you can highly do today. We have a small 15-second infomercial. If you haven't seen it, I just wanted to play that for you today. Down in here, you can't quite see it, but the photographs are from the Carson Hughes Foundation. But this is what's playing at the theaters right now. It's being launched on the chamber. We're going to see it on a couple of the news stations coming up. I just wanted to make you aware this is out there. You can share it, okay?
Versailles State Park is worth protecting, but its lake, dam, and maintenance are being ignored. Help us speak up. Visit icareaboutversaillesstatepark.org and sign the petition today.
It's as simple as that. You're welcome to share that. It's just a simple information video. So just before we go to the Q&A, and we're going to just open it up for just a few questions, we wanted to decrease the slide and go to the website. There we go.
I was a last minute addition, by the way, so
Sorry,
just throw up the disclaimer.
I couldn't be two places at the same time. So if you go, this is the website, as you see it, is Save the Lake. And as you go through this website, Tom, can you use the scroll bar down? Here you will find some lovely photos from the Carson Hughes Foundation, but as you scroll down, it's going to give you some basic things about the park. You can go right from these hot buttons to how to request for transparency, impact on the community, read the reports. There's some hot buttons there. We can go down. Okay, it just talks about this landmark is worth protecting. I think if each of us took 3 seconds and just thought, well, what's the first memory of the park that comes to your mind?
Swimming lessons.
Right? Does everybody have a memory of the park?
Yes.
Do your kids have a memory of the park? How about grandkids?
Yeah.
Fireworks? Yeah. There's many different reasons, right? Either camping, fireworks, swimming, the pool edition when that came in, the boating, canoeing. This is a landmark worth protecting. On this site, as you scroll down, you can read, these are photos from the park. Okay, so you can read about this. Tom, farther for me. Okay, so it's really going to be talking about, as you scroll through it, you can ignore, preserve it, or delay and remove it, right? So the sediment's not going away, right? Each year it's going to continue that we don't do anything with it. And as you kind of go down a little farther, all the public reports are available here in PDF version. I will tell you, if you're on a cell phone, it's a bit overwhelming. There's like a 70-page report here, okay? So I'm not sure everyone's going to read through them all, but I do want you to know that they are here, all the reports that were requested and returned to us. So this site is where you'll really want to go. And you have a card, we have some extra cards on the table. Please share them with people so that they can do this. If that is asked for requests for transparency, contact your state leaders. We need to ask Congress for help. Right? This is a little town in Versailles, but it's the second largest state in Indiana. We need our congressmen to take notice, right? And give this a shot and have some transparency in all the findings. So with that, I want to first thank you all for sitting through that presentation, and we're going to open the floor in some orderly fashion of Q&A. Again, I'm not the expert in the room. I am just the presenter of the information that we gathered, so I may not be able to answer, but the great thing is what we want to do going forward is take all this information, reach out to our congressmen. Thank you for being here, and thank you from your council's office, and what can we do with the information that we gathered, and how do we get the DNR involved as well, along with our congressmen, and all of you to stay involved. The next steps will be, please watch Facebook. Please watch the newspaper. Watch what's coming and where we need your help. And that would be probably the best communication channels that we're going to see. And you also can communicating with our government. Okay. Is there any question?
This is for Mr. Wagner. How long does it take for that stuff to work?
You will see some result after about, I'd say 10 weeks. But to truly evaluate the total, work is 6 months. Because you're talking about biology doing the work, it's not, it takes a little while for it to eat. And it would be something that you would monitor. I would assume a project like that would have a decent amount of analytical work, test added to it, as well as probably something they call biobase, which is using ultrasound to look at sludge depth, and you can then also use that to look at water depth. So, most of the companies I mentioned would do those types of studies along with it.
Anyone else?
For the products that you're talking about, do you understand what percentage of the dredge is organic versus inorganic?
I don't, we haven't got that far at all. My guess would be, uh, you're probably in the neighborhood of something like 10 to 20% organic, which doesn't seem like a lot, but like I said, when you take that 10 to 20% out of the matrix, the other portion that's inorganic then settles and compacts disproportionately to the total content.
So then at that estimated rate, how much foot are we talking about taking off with this versus dredging?
And you'll never take off as much as dredging. Dredging's an absolute because you physically remove things. But I would, in similar situations like this, we would find something that's maybe 13, 14% organic, and we would see up to, in the first dose, maybe a foot to 14 inches of reduction, which then becomes a foot to 14 inches of additional water, 253, say it's a foot, that's 253 acre feet of water just added to the capacity of that lake. An acre foot is 354,000 gallons, I think, or something like that. So take that, do that math. It's a lot, which would be quite beneficial because that also is the big wide spot in the line. When you do get flooding, that's somewhere for that water to go. So now you're increasing the holding capacity of that lake.
And this wouldn't be an instant process. We are aware of that, mostly.
I was going to say, I would say full restoration of a lake like this in the condition it is. And again, I'm making some assumptions right now on the condition because we haven't done sludge judges or any kind of bathymetric study or something like that. But I'd say you're probably looking at 2 to 3 year process to get the full effect.
How long does the dredging take and what becomes of the sediment?
The dredging is what is in that 103 million. And that would take quite a process. The sediment would have to be moved, from my understanding, to another state location because we don't have that availability within the park grounds. That's why part of that cost is there. And I'm not sure if the DNR can add to how long the dredging process for a lake this size and movement would take.
All right, well, I can't answer that specifically, but I guess just to frame it for a minute, I am Rob Baldwin. I'm the Director of State Parks. I'm not an engineer, not a hydrologist, and I'm also not a political appointee. I worked for the DNR for 36 years since I started college, and so I have a good understanding of state parks and the budgeting. I'm not an engineer to know exactly how long that would work, but what I do know is that the only dredging project that I've been aware of in my career with state parks was at Spring Mill State Park, and that was from 2015 to 2016. And that was about a year-long process, at least a year-long process. And that's a 23-acre lake. So it's literally 1/10 of the size of Versailles Lake. One of the reasons we typically do not explore dredging as an option because of the financial limitations. The only thing that made Spring Mill viable was there was a 40-acre field that was an in-holding that the park did not own. It was privately owned. And it just so happened that that field came up for sale at the same time that there was funding available to deal with that particular problem. And what made it financially viable was we did not have to dewater or truck the sludge. We were able to pump the sludge. We had a system of pipes, and we were able to pump the sludge directly up into this 40-acre field. So we had no trucking costs, we had no dewatering costs. that was still $1 million project for 1/10 the size, no trucking, no dewatering. So it is the trucking, it's the dewatering, and then it's the subsequent road repair that you have to do because, we're talking a full dredge here, we're at 2.7 million cubic yards. So that is literally hundreds of thousands of dump truck loads. So it's a scope and scale issue. And one other thing I'd like to point out that you're all probably, financially aware of is these numbers we're looking at, they're 2021 numbers. If you're involved in the construction industry in any way at all, right now, if we were to do that, 103.5 million, right now it's about 146 million. If we were to pursue that, we are still years away from anything actually being implemented. So, I mean, we're probably, by that time, we're probably looking at $180 million project. So if I can frame that for you a little bit, just so we have an understanding, I put it in perspective. Call it 180, call it 146, call it 103 million. Our annual operating budget that we operate 37 state parks on is 44.6 million. So that gives you an idea of the scope of this issue. Those of you that are maybe pretty in tune with state government, how things work, you say, well, that's your operating budget. Wouldn't this be capital? Yeah, it'd be capital. Our capital budgeting process is going on right now. Our legislators will be voting on it from January to April. So we are getting our budget request actually has already been submitted because it goes through a lot of steps before it ever makes it to the legislature. Our full ask, our wish list for the entire division for 2 years, and we won't get all of this. It's 55 million. So that's for 2 years for every park. So the scope of 180 or 146 is huge. It's incomparable to any project that we have ever taken on in state parks. It's the biggest project we've ever taken on in state parks is going on right now at Potato Creek, and that's at $100 million for the new lodge. And that is a massive undertaking. So I just want to paint the picture of what $180 million looks like to the DNR, or even 103 as far as that goes. Yes.
So then the point is, as daunting as those numbers are, the possibility of the chemical solution of maintaining what is there is the realistic thing. That's all you're saying. Obviously the amount of money is too much. So all of that aside is the question of the DNR getting together and finding out what's the viability of this process to regain some of what we've got and to maintain it.
Yes,
right?
we met with Mr. Wagner last Wednesday.
Okay.
So we've known about his product for 2 business days.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. So no, we are open for options. There is no final decision been made. I mean, like I said, the $180 million decision, that's gonna have to come from a gift from somewhere else.
No, maybe we'll get a lodge if we don't get the. It's thrown out there.
Yes, sir.
How many acres is in that park?
5,988.
How many acres are viably used every day?
I couldn't answer that.
The reason I asked, my dad brought this up when he was the maintenance man down there for years. There's parts of that park nobody's even walked on. There's already trees in there that are mature. They're not gonna get any better. What they're gonna do is die and fall down and rot. You want to take a little bit of that money off? Have a projected logging company that are good loggers, not these ragtags around here. Go in there to the parts that we don't use in that park and take those mature trees out. Take the money from them trees, put it back into the park.
That would be one approach. That is something that Indiana actually protects its state parks. We don't open them up for logging. Our Division of Forestry is the one that logs public lands. We will come in and we will do salvage timber harvest if there's been a natural disaster come in and take trees down. But that's part of the, that's part of our whole philosophy is to protect
The governor's even in the logging. He run a logging business. And I mean, it just makes, the park can support itself on things like this. I know we protect nature. I'm for that 110%. I'm 67 years old. I grew up in this park. Fishing below the dam, fishing in the lake, when you could still take a boat across the lake. Why has nobody ever fixed the gates on the dam to where we could flush that stuff out?
You know, I can't answer that
I
question.
can give you one good answer. Goes back to Paul Ant, was a manager down there years ago. You guys sent down a complete, beautiful place that for kids to play on. You know where it ended up at? Laying behind the shop and rotting. Because of management in the park at that time, and a couple of other people that's been there since then. They don't manage it. They don't want to wrinkle the water. They don't want to make no feathers. As long as they don't spend no money, their jobs are safe. They killed themselves.
Derek spends money. Don't worry about that. Honestly though, I mean, to say it's not managed, I see every comment card that comes along, and there are a bunch of them. And I will say that Versailles State Park has one of our highest, if not the highest ratio of positive comments coming in.
Can we get more campsites made? Because the way I understand it, this place is booked up 2 years solid.
Well, we'll try to address that. This is mainly about, these are great things that it is good to know about and we bring to the attention. But we want to try and keep, we have other questions, if we can try and keep it to the preservation and restoration. We know that
Okay,
there are things. No, that's okay.
Why did you wait so long to do this when it's been
He's had
growing?
his hand up for a while.
5,000 acres, and it's deep as some of those ravines are. Are there potential sites for a new lake on that property?
I'm not familiar enough with the geology there or if any of it's karst that it would play. I can't answer that. Again, I'm in state parks, which is a standalone division in the DNR. But this lake project, for example, this is not being driven by state parks. This is being driven by the DNR Division of Water. And I don't know that I don't know of any place we could make another lake, but I would not be the one to be able to tell you yes or no on that.
Are there any grant opportunities or any sources of alternative funding that you're aware of that might be able to help with this process?
Yeah, well, within the state, there's the Lake and River Enhancement Program, and that helped to fund the Spring Mill project, that 23-acre project. But the Lake and River Enhancement for the whole state for a year is about $4 million. So it's not, it's not the silver bullet.
I would like to mention here briefly, I received a phone call from a retired engineer or government worker about grants. They are proficient in writing grants for things like this. So we will investigate that, not necessarily from the DNR, but state writing engineer corps person who really said they wanted to be involved in this project. They could not be here tonight, or I'd have them explain their optimism towards this. That, we have stated a $4 billion state surplus this year. Where is that surplus? How do we find funding for something that's feasible? Like you said, 186 million, that's not feasible. Not even on the radar, right? But maybe 1.5 million is on the radar for other state grants We will look into that option. She will be a guest for us. Eager, saying, please don't give up as a community. I just retired. I can help you.
Always have been, lots of meetings, that's the thing, like, they recently addressed that, like, a whole lot less than dollars. Have you guys talked about our contractors, about providers? Assuming, they did. This was a study that was done, so we've not actually put it out for bid. When it comes time, whatever the path forward is, it will go out for bid. But no, this was a consultant that, these numbers.
Have you done a study on fixing the dam? So the floodgates can be opened to flush stuff out? Because the way I see it, all this other stuff is Band-Aid. 20 years down the road, the next generation will have the same problem.
Exactly.
The DMR segments are not fixing anything.
Well,
What they do starts with an F, and it ain't fixed. From what I've seen.
I'm sorry, what you just said?
I said, what they do starts with an F, and it ain't fixed. If that dam had been fixed 40 years ago, it would be flushed out. You put all the chemicals in there now, which is a great idea. But where's the stuff gonna go? It's gonna back right back up. Start at the bottom, fix the hole, flush that mud out. Otherwise, are we not gonna have the same problem 20 years down the road?
Yep.
Yeah, without, I mean, the problem.
Don't put Band-Aids on shit, fix it.
Well, that's what we're trying to do here, that's what we're trying to do.
Have anybody looked into fixing the dam?
Yeah, I mean, that is part of the study, they, part of the 103, part of the dredging includes the.
I think that should be the first part,
Sure.
hook your septic tank up before you take a crap in it.
That boy, Jim.
It's just under 6,000, I think it's 5,988.
Okay, we just got over 6,000 with the, brought natural gas on 50 that was brought in at 83.
You're telling me you have no place to put that sediment?
Not that won't come right back in the lake.
Oh, yeah.
Why not landfill?
They made a road right up that corner off of
I guess,
flat top to the hill.
how do we get it to the landfill? And
You gotta get it out one way or another, you transfer it. There's landfills all over the Indiana that could use that instead of having to pay for dirt. Flush it right down Losser, open that dam and flush it down. Why they have
All right, just one moment, please.
Keep it orderly, please.
Greg Wagner would like to say something.
All I was gonna say was, yes, there are lots of places in Ripley County that dirt, but you don't know what's in that dirt.
That's why I said landfill, because landfills have to manage their water right.
I'll bet you anything that's has waste at this point in time.
I worked at a landfill for 7 years. I know what they go in and come out.
And this is part of the discussion tonight. We're looking at all these different aspects. So, example, what you just said, what you all are saying, part of the transparency of the project is to separate the lake dredging, which was part of the 186 million, which isn't feasible, from the repair of the dam. Right, we need to separate those costs for transparency as a community so we can understand, okay, what point of that is the dam?
Yeah.
And now we're only looking at 1.2 for the lake. So what it actually is the engineering on the dam. And we're asking for transparency, and that's what tonight was about. It was really to hear what you're thinking, to try and bring information together, let our congressman and the DNR understand the concerns of the community, and what we're asking for is we need new studies, right? We do have public reports and you can look at them. Granted, 70 pages long, but you can see some of those on there. But really at this point, what you just said tonight is very valid. If we separate those costs, it will be helpful.
And that's in the report, they're divided out.
They're divided out. Yeah. So if you want to look at it, we can divide them out, but that was with the dredging, right? So we
Well,
need
they're
to,
divided out.
right, between the
Itemized,
dredging and,
yes.
okay, itemized. So you can look on there, the itemization between the dam and the dredging. We have an alternative to the dredging. Yes, we know several lakes that actually, they're part of reservoir lakes, right? And they get dredged every year. There's a certain percentage of that does happen every year. It's a small amount. This is a large project for dredging. It just really is, and we're aware of that from other DNR studies.
Could you consider repairing the dam, using the chemicals, and dredging? 1/3 dredging, using the chemicals, 1/3 to repairing.
To be honest, I think that the dredging cost is so high, it's the transport cost that's getting it out, that I think even if you're looking at a third dredging, it's still prohibitive, just to be honest. I mean, you're still looking at a third of it, you're still probably looking at $30 million, something like that, for just a third.
I think that in the report, don't quote me, but I believe that is considered a partial dredge, not the original depth or size in the 103 million. It's a partial dredge.
Why haven't we been more proactive with this lake and let it get in this kind of shape up to 2026?
It's the oldest answer in the book.
Years, but it's still there.
Yeah, it's the oldest answer in the book.
Okay.
Money.
Yeah.
It's money. I just, 44.6 million run 37 state properties. So, I mean,
Will this product help of the future sediment coming down? Will it take care of that?
I mean, it won't prevent new sediment from coming in. That will still have to be dealt with.
I know, but if you keep adding to it, would that increase it or not? I don't
Again,
understand.
2 business days,
Okay.
So full disclosure, when I left the meeting with them, I got on the phone with 4 other state park directors from other states to see if they had any experience with it. So yeah, we are exploring our options. We're doing due diligence.
Okay.
Could any of the government officials that are here today give some, obviously they hear about funding issues and requests all the time. What is their advice as far as moving forward, starting tomorrow and moving forward with their project?
Alex.
No, I've just been hiding over here in the corner listening, but I'm State Representative Alex Zimmerman. It's great to be here with all of you. I represent the majority of Ripley County, majority of Jefferson County, Jennings County, and a little bit of Decatur County. Obviously this issue's been down for years. And as the director said, it's still just answering the money. That's been the problem. You said it, we're sitting on a $4 billion surplus, and that sounds like a big number. It's a big number. I've never had $4 billion, but when you put it in the grand scheme of state government, it's not just money's just sitting there. It is there for these capital expenditures that we need. The disasters up in Gary that we just experienced, right next door in Franklin County and Fayette County, the natural disasters that we're having, that money is there to help facilitate responses to that. It's also there, worst case scenario, the economy crashes. That money, our state budget funds our schools. It funds our Medicaid program. That makes up the biggest chunk of our budget, schools and Medicaid. And we want that money to be there for our students, very obviously. We want it to be there for those who need it on Medicaid. And then there's everything else. The DNR. There's the other state agencies in our state government. The Department of Health, Department of Environmental Management. All of those agencies play a key role in keeping our state the way it is. My plan, I haven't discussed this with DNR, but next year's budget session, as the director indicated, I'm planning to ask the Ways and Means Committee and our budget writers to put some more funding towards DNR to hopefully allocate it towards making some repairs at the lake. Will it be $100 million? I can almost tell you I'll get laughed out of the room when I ask for that. There are so many competing priorities in our state government. Am I going to ask? Absolutely. But if I ask for 100, I may get 5. Because there's not just me up in Indianapolis in the House of Representatives. There's 99 other districts and their representatives, and everybody wants another piece of the pie. So I'm not here to say I won't ask, because I will obviously ask for, as has been mentioned, Versailles State Park is such a beacon for not just Ripley County, but our surrounding counties as well. And we're also, Congresswoman Houchin's office is also, we're dealing with this Big Oaks down the road. It's the oldest answer in the book. It's money. If money grew on trees, we fixed the dam years ago. But unfortunately, it's just a competing funding issue. But next year is the budget session, so hopefully, I'll go in and ask for 100 million. Maybe I'll get 5, but 5 is better than nothing. I met with Greg Wagner about 2 months ago, I think, to discuss this issue. That product's very intriguing to me. I'm not a biologist or a hydrologist or any of those discs. I'm an attorney. So I don't understand science very well, but I'm very interested in that product. I hope the DNR will consider, exploring that option. Been for the doubt 2 business days in a long time to do anything in government. The cogs of government move slowly, but anyway, I thank you all for putting this on. Glad to be here and listen to what's going on.
So, did anybody talk about ratings project partners for this gentleman? Mr. Wagner, I don't think they dredge section of it instead of trying to get it all in the end. And maybe open up to the public sector instead of making it a public.
Put a coffer dam down the middle and one there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those are, right. So those are all operational concerns of DNR. As your state representative, I can't tell DNR what to do with the funds that they are allocated. I can, put in the budget, it's earmarked for this purpose, such as fixing the lake at Versailles State Park. That's great, but ultimately it's an operational decision of DNR for how that money gets allocated. If DNR were to decide the best way to do that would be dredging or some of the sediment removal material that Mr. Wagner talked about, that's, all of those options are on the table, and DNR has explored all of those options. Those numbers are 5 years old. The $103 million, I did the math earlier. As the director said, it's about $147 million now with inflation, and that's not counting the increase in construction and transportation costs. So there's no right answer. But all of that, I know that the department is looking into that and how best to use our taxpayer dollars wisely to maintain and improve what we have in that state park.
Haven't we already had money granted to us at one time or twice, I think? And whatever happened to that? Why didn't it get fixed then or looked at then?
So that might be a question for the department. The most recent money was allocated for a feasibility study. That was completed 5 years ago.
There's, to my knowledge, in the last 3 decades, there's never been money allocated to this. So I've heard that a couple times now, but I have never been made aware of that in the past. So I think that's a local rumor that's going around that no, we've never been allocated money to dredge that lake, at least in the past couple decades.
Let's put bass tournaments in there and cabins down there on the lake and $75, $80 a night to stay in the lake. You got all these camper guys wanting to camp.
Mm-hmm.
That park can make that money back easy. That park's already made that money 3 times over, 4 million times over.
Yeah, I'm curious about if the best use of taxpayer dollars, if it's been 5 years since the study was done, and in that time we've almost doubled the pricing of it. It seems that urgency should be something that should be a top priority as far as getting this stuff. Yeah, I mean, the longer we wait, the more we're just eliminating. And then my other thought is, what is the profitability of Versailles State Park in general? Just if we are generating money from campsites, $4,000, that kind of thing. Yeah. Sure, this is a your bill is past due, so it's gonna be high. But what are we generating year after year?
Well, in fiscal year 25, Versailles made back 88% of what it spent. So they brought in 901,000 on 1.02 million of the spend.
So that's just state park entry fee and campsite fees, and then the full.
No, it is not. So that's the thing. As a system, we don't have good numbers on economic development on the impact of state parks. And we are working on that problem now. We are trying to get better numbers because we feel that knowing what the value of the state park brings to the local communities is key for us to be viable in the future moving forward. So completely understand that importance, and it is a very high priority for us. It's understanding the economic impact of state parks on local. So yeah, they bring in 901,000, but it's certainly the people that come in spending that 901,000 that trickles over to the community. So, and sometimes in pretty impressive numbers.
I think the people part about the 901,000 for all of us to digest tonight is that's what the park took in. What have we lost because the lake has not been maintained? We have lost it. I believe that number would be much greater and park revenue will be much greater. And as some of you have already stated, it will balance each other out, right? We'll take in more revenue to pay for some of these changes. And unfortunately, not making those changes over the years has cost us and the park itself much revenue. It's where it could have been being maintained and the revenue taken in. So that is just a thought for us to remember. We've lost revenue, and I do believe we've lost a lot of visitors. Yes, we have some great new things that have been worked on. Some, trails and the biking and things, but we've also lost revenue. I'm going to get to you both in just one moment. I do want to say, after we published this in the newspaper, just about this, I had not published a phone number, an email, any way for anyone to reach us, technically, as a committee, except for through Facebook or people reaching out. We had numerous phone calls, and some of you will understand this, from age 80 and up, who said, I'm sorry, we worked on this for 20 years to get funding to maintain the dam, to maintain the lake, and it was denied. So there is so just for historical value, it's the society center. There are some documents there that we'd like to produce eventually here about some things that were worked on, that we can present to you all. Why were those 20 years, these were constant, but it kind of gave us an idea though, this isn't this generation, wasn't last generation. This has been going on since it was put in, right? We talked about the thing, yes, in the 50s, and things not working correctly. This has been going on for decades of people trying to fight this. And, it was great to hear the voices of that generation of 80 and up, to hear what they're saying. I have lived here. We have tried. Please let me know if you make any progress. I cannot be in the town hall. Right? So just wanted to put that out there, that this has been going on a very long time. And we need to appreciate those voices as well as the ones we hear tonight in this room. And I think we had a couple of more questions. Reading back through.
We've talked a lot about the first option on that, the three options. Can you kind of describe what options 2 and 3 would look like?
Yeah. So option 3 is essentially a full dam removal, and it would be a free flowing creek from the headwater to where the dam is now. It'd just be more or less naturalized. The second option is one that it's a partial dam removal, to where part of it would remain in place, and then a large section of it, and I don't know how large, but a large section of it would be removed, and then rock, like boulders would be placed up there to where it's a ripple coming down, and it really alleviates the issue of the dam being overtopped. It pretty much eliminates that issue, except, I guess, in the most catastrophic circumstance. So the difference between the two is Lawfrey Creek would be free flowing under number 3. Under number 2, there would be a bit of an impoundment. There would be some areas that would be wider and deeper in the creek, where, there would be trails built and overlooks and stuff like that. So it would basically affect probably the width of the creek, and I would imagine the meander of the creek.
I believe that figure is dropping that area you're talking about approximately 15 to 16 feet, right?
Yeah.
But right now, the depth of the settlement, the deepest part of the dam is up within 16 feet of the top of the dam. So for all intents and purposes, you're eliminating the lake that way too. Because you're dropping the level that number of feet. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
There would still be an impoundment there.
there'd be an impoundment,
When
but
that's open.
but the actual lake out there would drop that 15 feet.
Well, one of the issues is if that process were to ever start, it is a long process. This isn't something that's going to be done overnight, because there is going to be sediment and stuff come out. So it's going to have to be very controlled. Probably looking at a 5 to 7 year process. So some of the sediment that was there would, would naturally come out on its own too. So,
And I think it's
and again,
important to acknowledge inflation on that as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Decommissioning.
And again, we're starting to get into, I'm not a hydrologist, and I'm not an engineer, so I don't want to go any deeper than that. So,
Have you tested the water?
what?
Have you tested the water in the last 6 months
Um,
or the sediment?
The sediment was tested as part of the feasibility study, and that's in the report. Regular water testing we don't do on the lake since there's no danger in that nature, so. And about water supply for us.
And have you, excuse me, sorry, have you been to the Versailles State Park?
I was just there a couple of months ago, yeah, yes.
Oh, well, usually around this time it's really beautiful. I have seen, in the morning I've seen otters playing in the lake, so it's definitely worth saving.
So what happens if you decide to go with blowing the dam with all this sediment? If we're so concerned about the sediment, isn't it gonna go down and stop up the creek itself?
Well, that's why it would take such a long time and be done in a controlled manner. And again, I'm not an engineer. I'm not the one that wrote this plan. So if you're getting in, want me to discuss details with you, I can't do it.
Okay, so from someone that's down south that's around the dams that's been blowed, it does a lot worse to the creeks than the rivers and leaving it like it is. Get down to where the river is down in Arkansas, and blowing the dam does worse for the creeks than dredging it and getting rid of it that way.
And that should be part of the new feasibility study that we're requesting, right? What are the implications of any of these options? It really should be. And that's what we're asking for, transparency.
What about the wildlife? Yeah, what about?
Well, and I think I'd like to go back to the transparency. These documents are what we have. You have what we have. So transparency is right there.
I think, just not to get into that, but they were here because I requested them. They weren't made public for everyone to view and say, hey, these are a feasibility study for the park. We have the transparency because I requested the documents at the request of citizens from this community. What we're asking for is please don't make us request them. Help keep us in the loop as a community. Stay in front of it, please. Help us to understand what plans are, what thoughts are, what costs are. And I know it was a great effort to put these reports together. I could tell they came from different departments within the DNR, right? As they were put together, it was very obvious that it had to be collected, but they're only public because I requested them. So I would just ask going forward, that was part of what this was, is just a request for transparency going forward, please make public some of these things without us having to request them. Thank you.
Respectfully, I'd like to just ask, sorry if I interrupted someone else.
No.
What, how was it that Potato Creek came to have, you mentioned them earlier, and they have this large capital project going on up there? Like, how did that come to be? And like, how do we get
a governor's initiative? That was not generated, requested by the DNR. That was a governor's initiative. When the governor tells you you're building a lodge, you build a lodge. So
I had the same question because you were saying what your budget was for the year for all the parks, but yet you're building $100 million inn at one park.
yeah, it was a line item put in by previous governor.
And that is part of what we're trying to talk about, that if something wants to be happen, it may happen, right? But at the DNR level, it's very different than example of line item by governor. So how did that happen?
What, the plan, say you take the dam out. There's going to be dry land where the lake was, am I right?
Yeah.
So what are the plans for that?
Oh, it would be completely, I mean, it would be restored, landscaped. I mean, I heard somebody say something about a data center.
Oh,
That's ludicrous. So, yeah, I'll just go ahead and say that out loud. So, but no, I mean, it would be restored, and I couldn't tell you which part of it would actually be, restored to grass and restored to forest and what might be wetland. But I mean, the creek itself would be a natural, meandering creek. There would be, like I said, trails and overlooks and that kind of stuff put in. So, I mean, it's a state park. We want it to be, beautiful, and we want it to be vibrant. We want it to be something people are going to visit. It's not going to be a big mud flat out there, I guess, is what I'd like to
And I think
reiterate.
part of that question was, like you had mentioned, okay, it would be restored. It's a state park. It's the second largest state park. What is it going to be known for? Right now, it's known for, it has a lake, there's a water feature. When you look up state parks and people are trying to find parks with lakes, this is part of the transparency looking for, if you decide that this is the way it needs to go, what is gonna go there, what's gonna be the job? I don't know, how many of you mountain bike or bike, I mean, compared to someone looking at the lake, it's a huge demographic difference. Are people going to look for Versailles State Park? What are they going to look for? Camping? Camping.
I know back in the '60s, and this is the '60s, I can't remember exactly what year. Versailles was in Field Street Magazine. Versailles State Park Lake was the number one go-to place in the state of Indiana for rock fishing.
And part of the restoration, if we're able to use the organics, is part of that is similar to Brookville Lake or some of these other lakes, the stocking, the appropriate aquatics and fish to maintain the organisms within the lake, maintain the proper balance, right? Fish and other things do that for us as part of that process.
There've been so I live downstream of the dam and I live on Alter Creek and I'm close to the floodplain. Has there been, I saw the well report, I've looked through the reports, not in depth, but has there been a study on what the floodplain impact looks like with option 2 or 3?
With option 2 or 3, there's not going to be that. The flood is if the dam is breached and overtopped. So with those other options, that greatly eliminates the possibility of that. Greatly reduces the possibility of that happening.
Without the dam, I'm just curious, like I know.
There's a dam that we can throw the ones to create past and then the flood.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think there'd be any controls in it. No, it would be more of a natural, it would not have any sort of gate in it under options 2 or 3.
Right, I understand that. Just like what, how does that impact the floodplain and like, you know, what does flooding look like once that dam is gone? I'm just curious if there's been, I don't expect you to know the answer, but I just am curious because that's gonna,
I mean,
you know,
it
impact
greatly
myself.
reduces it, but I don't know by how much.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the fear of when you lose that, you're losing those billions of gallons of water behind the dam that aren't going to be there if under options 2 or 3. So it's not going to be as intense because you don't have the impoundment that's going to come with it.
Okay.
So, but I don't have exact answers.
That's,
And part of the options for this evening were to understand as a community how we can become more involved. It was mentioned, can we break this down? I can tell you right now, a $400,000 audit treatment, we could raise that money in a heartbeat to have that first treatment started, to start the lake regaining some of its, but the restrictions, and that's what we're trying to understand tonight. We feel like as a community, we've been restricted from participating in the balance of that lake, in the dam restoration, in the maintenance of this. So part of the evening tonight was to try and discover how can we, or is it even a possibility as a community, that we can help with this, or is this truly just a government function? And we can't raise funds, we can't apply for grants. Will they be understood? Will they be acknowledged? I think that is what we're just trying to discover tonight because we have a community, many also private investors, who would be willing to start the treatment on the lake. Any thoughts?
I'm here listening.
Okay.
I'm here listening.
So, I mean, that is what we're trying to understand.
Yeah,
That's all.
Yeah.
We would love to be able as a community to participate. And I think we're all in agreement with that. Like, what can we do? And if the government, the DNR can help us as a community understand this is the way, yes, okay, we need 400,000 to start this. And we don't have the funds. How are we gonna get it? And can we participate? And that's what we're asking tonight. It's just to see what we can do. I appreciate.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for taking all this questions.
You're welcome.
I'm so glad you answered them.
Looks like we have one more.
Okay.
So if it's a 27 capital budget, you guys are working on the 27 or 28?
It's 28, 29.
Okay.
We do it 2 years at a time.
So obviously there's nothing on the budget on for 27 because it's already been decided. It's part of it.
Yeah, 27 is locked in.
So if it's prioritized, whether it's the dam, get a chance to investigate if this is a practical solution. I mean, let's go with the assumption that the majority of the folks, it's up to the community, but you know the majority of the folks won't like. You see it getting on, you get the deadline's in January, right? You see it getting on the 28, 29.
Not from our perspective. Ours has already went down the path. Like if we were to explore something with that, unless somebody comes in with some line item, the DNR's request is already done. It would be the 30, 31 before something could be.
Right, so the department has already started its budget process. Every state agency has already submitted its budget request for the next biennium. Now, so as the director was saying, their budget request is set. But through the legislative process, January to the end of April, when we're writing the budget at the state legislature, that's when line items could get added to either increase their budget, add a new appropriation for the state park, in order to do that. But if it doesn't get done in the next budget, then as the director said, it'd be 29-30 budget.
How does as far as like the practicality of the solution that Aaron mentioned or whatever, like I said, I understand the effect that's over there. I've never heard that either. But as far as looking at the practicality of those things, that's going to take into account, all right, don't have to worry that that solution is practical. To actually maybe put a line item in through that or the dam. How does that work? And will that get the priority to look at that and see if that can make that as a line item?
Yeah, it's so early, I can't tell you how that will actually work. I mean, again, this is brand new information for us. I have no reason not to believe Mr. Wagner for any reason at all, but at the same time, I mean, there's different processes, there's bidding that has to go through, there's case studies that would have to be reviewed. Mr. Wagner met with us and met with me and Mickey and my boss. And my boss left for his summer vacation. When he gets back, we will sit down and we will talk about how we move forward. Because I believe he responded to you that we were going to look into it further. So, I mean, what that process looks like exactly, I don't know, but we will give our due diligence to this. Nobody wants to come in and take anything from anybody. There's not one of us that wants to come in and do away with
Line. At the same time, obviously, yes, it's right. I know January seems far away. Yeah. But if you're gonna look at all that stuff, go put it into a line item, that's gonna be here from Joe.
Yeah. I mean, just to kind of restate the process, we don't put it in as a line item. Yeah. So, yeah.
Right there. What's the DNR's recommendation on what things needs to be done as far as these?
Well, right now, the consultant's recommendation was option 2, which was the partial removal with the rock. So one of the things that's going through right now is to figure out what the true cost of that would be. That's one of the bills going through is to do the true design on that, to figure out what the cost would be on doing that. That would be, if that design is approved, that would be in the 28-29 capital budget. So nothing would be acted on from that at least till 30 or 31. So that is right now, basically what the DNR is pursuing is how much would option 2 cost?
I have a question in this. So at the beginning of the meeting, it was stated that there has been no decision made. But I'm also part of legislator in a different branch. If it's in the proposal, there has been a thought to making option 2 a decision in order to present it for budgetary purposes.
But that option 2 informs how much the other ones would cost as well.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But in a sense, though, the DNR has been looking at option 2. Obviously, if it's being
because
presented.
that was on the consultant's recommendation.
Right,
So,
okay,
yeah.
so I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
That option 2
I can take that down.
was on that.
Right.
But
Yes.
that was without this chemical additional,
Correct.
why wasn't that in this study that was done 5 years ago?
I didn't know that.
No, Greg.
Because I didn't launch the product line in the US till 2023.
We hope that this is what we were trying to do, is find alternatives to be considered that were budget friendly, right? And to present them. That was the option of the petition, and you're right, it wasn't. And why, again, we're asking why wasn't it? This has been around. Greg, how long has this been around? Treatment?
Functionally since about the middle of 24.
Okay. So it's
2 years in.
So we're only 2 years in, right? So this is why it probably wasn't part of the consideration. It's what we talked about on one of the earlier slides. There's always new analytics, new technology. But that was the idea of tonight, was to just kind of state, where we are at, which we know is presented in the budget option 2, right? Is to see the demographics of that. So that you're all aware. And that was what this meeting was about, to kind of nail that down and find out where we were at, present these other options. No one has the full answers tonight. We don't, right? The option was to get together, talk about them, and going forward, maybe we can understand either from our congressman or from the DNR, as a community, what would we expect going forward, knowing that this is a community concern. right?
Right.
We just don't know yet, right?
Right.
Okay, okay.
So even though this is taking decades to come forward, nobody's gonna know anything for another, what, 2 years or more? And then it'll take another maybe 4 years to actually get it going. And then by that time, there won't be a lake anyway. So then what happens then?
That is a very good question, and that was a concern that we were going to end with tonight. And you stated that perfectly.
All I hear is excuse after excuse. Someone's on vacation. Someone else is doing something
Well,
else.
in fairness, that's 1 week. It's a 1 week vacation.
Just so, okay, go get in. But I'm just saying, there are just, seems like one excuse after the other. We have a beautiful view from the back of our home. One of the reasons we bought it, because of the lake. We see eagles landing in trees in the back. What happens to property values that have views of that lake? What happens to that if there is no lake anymore?
We can tell you that by case studies, I am not gonna go through them tonight. I want you to do your own research. Go in and find out what happens to communities when the main attraction of the state park is taken away. If Versailles community dries up for small businesses, so does park. And visitors, you know, I think it's underestimated, and you mentioned that you're trying to do more studies on this, case studies. Where do people go when it's raining? They're gonna come in to one of the restaurants. They're gonna, on a Saturday morning, we see the market flooded with visitors from the park. If there's nothing here to visit, and the park has no water features, why would anyone come to Versailles State Park? And that is the part of the economy that we want addressed, along with, you know, if you lose the small businesses here, what happens to the community? What happens to the schools that we're trying to fund in the overage? What happens to the quality of our education? It is a trickle effect when things like this dry up. It affects everyone. It's gonna affect your children, your businesses, and that is why we're here. See, we got two, okay.
I was with a committee, worked on this same project way back years and years ago. Project Clear, everybody knows what that is. 2002 or 3, 4, 5, somewhere in there, whenever John Goss was the director of DNR. We had a meeting out at North Vernon at the library or whatever. And it was an annual meeting for historic community buildings, and he was the main speaker for the night. The committee was Project Clear, and I asked him point blank, will the DNRs ever dredge for Versailles State Park Lake with a number already there at that time, a dollar there? He looked me square in the face and he says, no. Direct. And if I had everybody else here with me that was there that night, they would agree with what I just said. Because that's the way it was. No, there was a dollar figure there. It was not as high as it is now, of course. And they did pump the sludge. And the place they were gonna pump the sludge to is now, I don't have anything against bicyclers, but that was the bicycle track that's in there right now. That's where it was gonna go. That's, I kept quiet all night long, but I couldn't take it anymore. I started hearing about it.
They could pump it up on all the hazard.
I think what we're hearing is that this has been going on for decades, and we do know option 2 is in the budget line. What is it going to change another 4 years to change that budget line for approval? And we know that process is extremely slow. We do have history of councils in these meetings on file. So I think what the community is asking is like, is there really any hope that we're going to see any changes?
I think there's new options that we are exploring. No final decision's been made, and we are going to look into those. So, yes, as far as the DNR requesting money in this budget cycle, no, that ship has sailed. So, yeah.
I have a question. So
we're looking this down the road 2 or 3 years before there's ever a possibility of money to fix what's wrong with the dam. 2 or 3 years, we have as much rain as we've had this year. And the dam breaches. What's that do to everybody downstream of that? And what kind of impact is it going to be on Southeast Indiana if that dam does blow just by natural rainfall, whatever, because we've had a lot of rain. And if it breaches before anybody does anything to fix it, repair it, or partially repair it, then we're gonna have, the state is gonna have a lot of expense and FEMA and everything else, and nobody downstream is gonna get that.
That's what we're going through right now, I think.
And we're talking 2 or 3 years, so if the dam is in critical condition now, it's gonna be a great.
Yeah. I think
that should be a
everybody
big
in our
concern.
organization wishes it was taken care of
Right.
20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah, we all. I'm sorry.
Okay, we're gonna take just a couple more questions, to be considered of the people who've been standing in the back for an hour and a half. Go ahead.
So, if the Lincoln State Park, lake was drained and repaired, the dam was repaired, how is that funded?
It was funded through, there was a deferred maintenance. Several years ago, the DNR was given a deferred maintenance pot of money, and that was one of the targeted projects for it. The difference between Lincoln is it was simply a dam repair issue. There was no sedimentation issue. There was nothing else. They were able to drop the lake and then go in, make these dam repairs, and then close it back. And then, unfortunately, with the rain that everybody everywhere else has been getting in southern Indiana, it has been missing Lincoln. So Lincoln's Lake is still not back up to where it should be because they have not, for whatever reason, not been getting the rain that everybody around them has. But yeah, it was that dam repair was caught from deferred maintenance, but it did not have the other lake issues. It just had the dam issue.
Realistically, Alex, the director there, what is the earliest you could go back, talk to people, and say to us, here's your next update? I mean, I know it's going to take more than.
I can't answer that question. I mean, we'll go back and we'll talk about it, and we'll keep the locals here in the loop, and we're having conversations with the town about some other issues as well, so we can keep everybody informed. So
I just think it would behoove everybody, and I know you would like to do it tomorrow to have it done, but I think it's critical that you get the players together, have those meetings, and say, we're gonna give you a monthly update, over 2 months update, or we're gonna give you something by the end of the year, at least something. And I just think that's not too much to ask. Thank you.
we'll discuss that. Again, this is multiple divisions within an agency. I'm not the final end all.
You can't go on vacation until.
I think part of the question on the finance you partially answered. If you look on the website, it says the revenue generated, approximately how much goes back into it, and then says also revenue goes to other special DNR projects. So are we to assume that where it says, that's a disclaimer on the site itself, that is not local? Is that being?
No, all state park revenue, all of it, Versailles, Indiana Dunes, Brown County, goes back into one pot that funds the state park system.
So it all goes into one and then goes out, okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious because that is what it says.
Yeah, I mean, we have parks that make over 200% ROI. Yeah. So,
and then it's dispersed.
those Indiana Dunes wishes they got all the money that they generated.
Right. Thank you. Okay, we'll take a couple more.
I was going to go back to the question you asked earlier for both of them. Like if we are able to raise money or say we can get somebody out, REI or somebody else to help out, like how do we do that? How do we work together? You know, I mean, I don't know.
Would it be accepted, I think is what he's asking.
If there were outside dollars come in, then it's not tied to the legislative process. Now, it would still have to be approved by the state budget agency. But again, if those are outside dollars, we aren't tied into that 2-year cycle.
Yeah, but how do we get that, funnel that into working on projects? I guess
Not
that's
coming up with the full amount, contributing to.
Yeah.
the other needs,
well-
'cause there are grants.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys found those grants, you would want to come to us and, make sure there's no reason we couldn't take them or so on or so forth. So, I mean, things identified, just reach out, let us know, and we'll figure it out from there. So,
And could that be earmarked, an example for the set of the deduction? Let's say the dam is a 4-year away project. They can't be touched, right, until funds are allocated. If we were able to get 1.2 million, which would be a 3-year overhaul of organics. We're just wondering, is the possibility to even earmark it for that, to have it come in and start at least on the lake? Or would that have to be set aside till the DNR does their own projects?
no, I think if that money came in, we could evaluate it. We're still evaluating the product, so,
Right.
we can't get too far out over our skis
But it would be
here.
a
But
possibility.
yes,
Okay.
it's plausible that if grant options were available, you brought them to us, and they fit our criteria, then, yeah. We haven't to spend other people's money.
Do it all the time.
Is there actual numbers as far as the cost of the dredging and everything, not just on the study, but around here? The actual cost of the dredging, they said in Greensburg,
Yeah.
I mean, that's 10 million is a far number from the 103.
Again, this commission or this study was commissioned by DNR Water, by a consultant. I can't, I mean, I'm not sure if it was the same size lake. I'm not sure what the consideration is. How much? So I don't know what the consideration of trucking and hauling and dewatering were. So I can't address that.
But if the community was trying to look, see how much that would be, I mean, is that?
Get it.
Is that something that?
Get a better number, let us know what it is.
So basically, that's an engineering.
Yeah,
Engineering function, and the cost of the engineering function itself is quite substantial to get those numbers because they go out to bid, right? So it's not just the engineering, but it's the bid process. So something to look into as we move forward. We're gonna
Just one more. The thing that I keep hearing in all of this is that this is like a return on investment thing. Like, I mean, to me, that's a theme that I feel like is obvious that we all should acknowledge. I understand that you guys don't make these kinds of decisions, like that there's a lot of layers and a lot of people involved. I think the thing that, as a community member, as a mom, as somebody who has a small business that would overlooks the lake and would be impacted, as somebody that's on the county council here, and I worry that, if these decisions are made, understandably so, maybe for DNR's state, bottom dollar, I think what our community is saying, that we're worried that there's a lot more impact than just how it's going to impact DNR. Like, we're all worried about our homes, our businesses, our community, our kids, our schools. And so when there's a community like Potato Creek that, has, for whatever reason, however that happened, been given this golden goose egg, kind of type thing. Like, I think the question I'd like to ask is, how do we get one of those? Because if we got a golden goose egg, and someone that's not here tonight, and I wish he was, he's another elected official, but he brought to me that, why don't we dream bigger, Versailles? Like, why don't we look at trying to ask for that golden goose egg? Why don't we look for a lodge, or I've heard an aquatic center being mentioned, something like that would be a large capital project for our state park and for our community, because this person mentioned to me they're very familiar with like the swimming world, for example, and apparently us living between Indianapolis, Cincinnati, and Louisville, there's a large opportunity to like host swim meets and things like that that would really give that return on investment. You know, if we had a lodge and rooms were booked and you had a lot of people coming through the gates or whatever for something like, I don't know. I'm not saying that's a perfect answer, but I just feel like if we've had an opportunity like that, the potential for the return on investment is there. Maybe we just need to dream a little bit bigger than thinking about, dollars and cents fixing the dam and dredging. Like, why don't we look at a bigger picture, I guess?
Agreed. And this is why we do need to petition our Congress and Congresswomen in this aspect. We're going to have to cut this off. I'm so sorry. Okay. Whoa. Okay. 1 moment. We'll get 2 more here and then we're going to have to go. But just as you're right, for most of us, those that have been residents here, the dream big has been just plain maintenance on the dam and the lake. That was the big dream that's been going on for decades. And I realize what you're saying, that, yeah, why can't Versailles be at the table? Why can't we get the funding? Why has Versailles State Park, second largest state park, been ignored?
Exactly. Wouldn't say that it's been ignored.
The dam and the lake.
Okay, I was gonna say, I can go back to some pretty hard numbers.
The dam and the lake. Well, we're just gonna narrow it down to that because we're not trying to be critical of other things, right? It's just, why is that maintenance been ignored for years and years and years now? And so, that is the question tonight. And like you said, why can't we be bigger as the second largest state park in land options? And we have 2 more and we are going to call it a night, please. Just 2. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was holding hope once this so by Governor Braun. And when he suggested, the Governor Braun says do something. There's 2 questions before I read the quote. Is he the final decision maker, or is he the pinpointer which community is more important? Not just the funding, because we all know that happens in politics. People do things for each other, but when I saw that, Salomon Park up north near Fort Wayne, and they just gained 1,400 acres of state forest. And so they had a news article about it. And we were already hearing the issues about our state park. And this article quoted Governor Braun. He says, our state parks are some of Indiana's most cherished places, where families make memories, enjoy the outdoors, and connect with the natural beauty of our state. Expanding Indiana state parks to include Salamone River and Francis Slocum State Forest will help more Hoosiers and visitors experience these special places while preserving them for future generations. Governor Piper. And I thought, yeah, why are we not on that list? We lost the beach, we lost Bat Cave, we lost horseback riding stables. Absolutely. The fire tower, we love the fire tower, Brown County, other parks. Why is that not matching our history of our park? Because we all have wonderful memories. But if they take the lake away, if Carson leaves, it's such a beautiful representation. I saw his picture posted at the Indiana State Fair 2 years ago, and I was so excited. We were so proud. And just to see, I take pictures at the park all the time. We have wonderful memories. We're not wealthy people here in Versailles, but what else can we do to get, besides, just keep contacting our government?
I will say this. I was in the governor's office about 2 months ago, meeting with some of his staff on some other issues. One or two of Carson's pictures are hanging on the wall in the governor's office. And they've been there since, Governor Holcomb was in office previously. And I told the governor that, see these pictures, they're important to my community. This lake is important to my community. It's important to all of you and your community. And it's not something that I take lightly, that I'm just going to lay down and let it go away. What I would encourage all of you in this room to do, whether you live in Ripley County or not, contact your state elected officials. Senator Jean Lysing couldn't be here tonight. She represents all of Ripley County. Contact my office. Contact the governor's office. Let us know. Let your voices be heard. Because that's the only way that positive change can be done, is when we hear from those that we represent. Stephanie made a good point. Why did Potato Lake get this big goose egg? Governor Holcomb waved a wand and said, DNR, do this. Governor Braun could do the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to come to.
That can't be a sign of Gulf Carson's way. Carson put that lake on the map, taking photographs of otters and ducks and all the wildlife down there. That man put Versailles Lake on the map. And he's the main reason I'm here arguing to save that lake.
And it is acknowledged.
And it wouldn't cost that much to make a sign.
Well, that will be for another day. Thank you, though. I appreciate it. I appreciate your thoughts. So just a great thank you to everyone that was involved in making tonight happen. For all of you that came, for the DNR representation, congressional representation on both sides. We don't have answers. I kind of said that in the very beginning. If you remember when we started, we're here to talk. And hopefully you felt like that. I know some of you feel like it. We didn't get anywhere, but we did. Okay? We have recognition that this is something that needs to be talked about. So I want to encourage you, just like I said, reach out to the congressional thing. You can go to the website, you can see instantly all those links there. You can pick up here. We will do our best. Pardon? Yes, there's form letters here that you can just pick up off the table. If you don't like the online work and you prefer just to mail something, they're here with addressed envelopes for Senator Leasing, for the governor, for our representation there for Congress. Go ahead and pick one of those up. I encourage you to do that. We will post updates. I'm not sure the medium for that yet, but when we hear something or we're given an update, we will do our best. And it may be in the forum, hopefully, of another town hall, right? Because that is, you got to all communicate together tonight. It wasn't through Facebook. You weren't reading a newspaper article. You were actually talking to each other, right? So again, just a thank you for everyone that came tonight, and we will do our best. Very small committee, just trying to bring the community together, but we'll do our best.
Can I ask a quick question? What would it take to get our government to come down and visit our town?
I don't need to schedule.
Yeah, I think we come down and see what potential that we should have.
The second largest.
And 6,000 acres is a lot of
right on these letters, governor comes in and they'll say.